Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, Karen loses it when I tell her that she's ungrateful for getting to be a stay-at-home mom and expecting her husband to do more chores. The other day, I went to lunch with 4 mom friends of mine. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and so is one of the other moms. Of the other 3, one works part-time and the other 2 work full-time. One of the moms that works full-time mentioned how she had started to pay for a cleaner to come by every other week. They both work full-time and have 2 kids and were finding that they couldn't keep up with all the chores. The other stay-at-home mom was agreeing with her about finding it difficult to keep the house clean when her husband does only a few chores inside the house. She told us her husband's main jobs are cooking dinner, cleaning the bathrooms, and looking after the yard. In my opinion, that's more than a fair distribution of chores, considering her husband works full-time. They have 1 kid who's 10 and no pets. I mentioned to her that it actually sounded pretty fair, and that my husband has 0 cleaning chores and mostly only cooks on the weekends if he wants to. I told her as he works full-time to provide for our family, I consider it my job to do the majority of the household chores. This isn't gender-related in my opinion. If we both worked, I would agree about splitting chores equally, or if I worked and he didn't, I would be expecting him to do the majority of the housework. I have 5 kids. The youngest 2 aren't in school, and I'm a carer for my husband's grandmother. Yet, it's still easy for me to set aside a couple hours a day for household chores. She strongly disagreed with me, and she thinks her husband should be doing more, and told me couples should split housework equally. I told her that I think she's being ungrateful to her husband, who allows her to be a stay-at-home mom even now that their kid is older. I asked her what she does all day if she expects him to do half the chores, and that she just wants an excuse to be lazy. In the end, lunch was ruined, and she called me a jerk. 2 of our friends took her side, telling me off for judging her. Was I the jerk here? I feel like I was pointing out the obvious. Your friends took her side and said that you were judging her? You were judging her. Both of you stay-at-home moms have individual arrangements with your husbands that more or less work for each of you. Yours seems to mesh quite nicely with your personal values about how work should be split up between you and your husband. But rather than accepting that hers is different and that it may work for her, you compared yourself to her and conveyed your own moral superiority by calling her ungrateful. You're the jerk. But the friend was complaining that it was difficult for her to keep the house clean, given that her husband does so few chores. People vent. Sure, you can disagree with people's opinions, but the way OP comes off sounds like a bit much. There are nicer ways to say things, or you can just shut up if you don't have anything nice to say. I mean, I don't know the friend, but her husband might be a complete slob that leaves a trail of mess wherever he goes, and cleaning after him might actually be a full-time job. Maybe her 1 kid is a handful in comparison to OP's kids. We don't know the full picture. Instead of being, look, I'm doing more, so you shouldn't complain, maybe she could have found out why her friend was struggling. If OP is such a good stay-at-home mom, maybe her friend could use some tips to keep a tidy home or be more efficient. Show a bit of empathy and concern rather than judgment and criticism. You're the jerk. After what you said to her, you consider her a friend? Sometimes people just want to vent. Sometimes people just want a kind ear who will listen to them because they're a stay-at-home mom and they mainly talk to their kid all day. But you thought it was more important to insult her instead. What did you expect would happen? That your friend would say, "Oh my gosh, OP, you're right. I am a lazy jerk, and I need to do better. Thank you so much for helping me see the error of my ways." You consider it your job to do the majority of the household chores? You take care of your 5 kids? Congratulations. Do you want a cookie? Nobody here cares. The thing is, we're not your friends, so we couldn't give a flying hoot about your sad little humble brag. If you want a pat on the back, you need to have friends for that. Oh wait, you just insulted one of them, and 2 others took her side. You're the jerk. Telling someone how they should feel and behave is jerk behavior. You're entitled to your opinion, as are your friends. However, you expressed your opinion in a way that undercut your friend's right to her opinion. Having an "I'm right and you're wrong" attitude makes you a poor friend. Be more supportive of your friends if you want to keep them as friends. Not the jerk. Can you imagine if a stay-at-home dad was complaining about his wife, the one with an actual job that supports the family, and how she doesn't do enough chores around the house? You all would completely flip out on him. The hypocrisy on this site is why the marriage rates in countries like America are declining so rapidly. Some men are going to be okay with working their butts off so you can be a stay-at-home mom, then coming home and doing all the chores that you were too lazy to do. But any man with some self-respect is going to demand you pull your weight as a stay-at-home mom is supposed to. And then you'll just divorce him, take his kids, and he's stuck paying you alimony and child support. Yep, I'm never getting married. It's so not worth it anymore with the entitlement you have to deal with. Oh, you're home after your long day of hard work to keep food on our table? Good boy. Now get started on your chores while I scroll through TikTok. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her friend? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for excluding my adopted sister from family photos? I'm 26 female, and my adopted sister, Allie, is 14. The way we are related is that my younger brother, Michael, who's 24, has been with his wife, Maya, who's 24, since their freshman year of high school. Maya and Allie had a really bad home life, and my mom is very much a my home is open to everyone type of person. So over that year, Maya began spending more and more time at our house, eventually bringing Allie over as well since she was always babysitting. By the time Michael and Maya were 16 years old, Maya basically lived in the guest room, and Allie spent after school, most weekends, holidays, and summer vacations at our house. My mom and dad say that they both love Maya and Allie like their own kids. My other siblings, 18 male and 16 female, also treat her like she's part of the family. Even after Maya and Michael moved out, Allie is still at their house the same amount, if not more than she was before. Now to preface, I have nothing against Allie. She's a good kid, and I make an effort to be nice to her. However, I've never really liked how she was foisted into our lives. She's not actually adopted, and she still has parents and her own family. Yet my parents spend so much time and resources on her. It's ridiculous. Everyone else has started unironically calling her their daughter or sister, and I've refused. I just don't consider her to be family. Anyways, I got married recently, which is where the issue starts. I invited Allie to the wedding, of course, and she came with all of my other family. When we were doing pictures of the wedding parties, I decided that I wanted one with all of my immediate family, so my parents, my siblings, and Maya and Michael's daughter. My mom brought Allie up to come take the picture with us, and I was forced to tell her no. My mom started to get upset, but then Allie said it was okay and sat down by herself. My mom isn't a very confrontational person, so she didn't make a big deal out of it, but then everyone else realized that Allie wasn't there, and they all got mad as well. Ultimately, we took the photo how I wanted it because they didn't want to do this at my wedding, but my entire family is upset with me now. My mom said that Allie cried when she got home because I don't love her, which I don't. I feel like they forced me into a position where I had to do a jerk thing by forcing her onto me. I don't think I should have to consider her family if I don't want to. Am I the jerk? Edit. After the ceremony, but before the reception, the wedding party and both of our close families took photos. I did not include Allie in this photo session, and she sat with the rest of the regular guests waiting for dinner. I did not intentionally exclude her from any of the photos taken. I'm sure she's in some of them from throughout the night, especially because she was there with my family. I hope that clears some things up. Edit 2. Maya and Allie are sisters. Sorry, forgot to explicitly say that in my post. Final edit. The people who are agreeing with me are starting to convince me that I'm wrong. To the people calling my parents nasty things in my PMs, or just saying that they aren't good people, you're dead wrong. My mom is the most caring and kind-hearted woman in the world, and I should have made that more clear in my post. To be clear, I am also not a monster. I don't mistreat Allie. I get her birthday and Christmas gifts every year. However, I'm starting to understand that I did do a crappy thing by publicly excluding her at my wedding because I wanted it to be exactly how I imagined, especially because my mom was apparently blindsided by my feelings. I was 16 to 18 when Allie started coming around a lot, and I didn't form the same bond everyone else did. I never really liked being around kids, including my sister, who by all accounts behaved way worse than Allie ever did. But I recognize that she's become a part of our family, and I think I'm going to make more of an effort to get to know her properly because I do know she is very mature and intelligent for her age. I'm so sorry, but you're the jerk. Unless my math is failing me, this kid entered your life when you were 16 and she was about 4, and you already had 3 other biological siblings who are younger than you, but older than her. Your words sound resentful, as if you started being neglected at that time. But you're taking this out on Allie. I hope you understand that, and perhaps therapy could help. You're the jerk because you were a jerk to Allie at your wedding. You could have gotten your immediate family photos in a much nicer fashion. Edit 2. I know Allie is not adopted. I know she's not OP's family. I know that Maya is really Allie's sister. I know that OP has every right to exclude whoever she feels like on her wedding day. I know she owes Allie nothing. I still think she's a jerk for the way she behaved. I'm not sure why everybody wants to change my mind about that. You're the jerk. You said this girl has been living with you and your family for 8 of her 14 years, more than half of her life, and basically a third of yours. That's a long time. On top of that, you let her sister in the picture. You say that you wanted a picture with your immediate family, but included Maya, the girl's sister, and Maya's daughter, the girl's niece, who, despite being the spouse and child of your brother, would not be considered immediate family. You basically included every important person in this girl's life in this picture, but not her. I'm normally very much on the side of it's your wedding, it's your call, but this seems like you're being unnecessarily cruel to her. Against the grain, but no jerks here. Judging by the ages, you were practically out of the house when Allie became a factor in your family's lives. It does seem like you didn't have a choice to develop the same relationship with her as the rest of the family. She is family to them, she's not family to you. That's not really anyone's fault, but kinda how the circumstances came out. You have no official relationship and no personal relationship. While you could have taken the extra photograph to keep the peace the day of, the fact is, you would have felt weird including someone neither you nor your fiancé consider family in a photograph, and likely preferred the photograph without her as is. There might actually be a slight jerk to the parents. If they want you to accept Allie as a sister, what have they actually done to build a relationship between you guys? It kinda seems like they expected you to just have one, and it doesn't work like that with older kids. We actually see a lot of that in this sub. With step and half siblings, this is really the same scenario. OP just has no personal relationship to Allie, so it makes sense OP would feel weird about a stranger to her being in the wedding photos. Wow, massively weird energy on this comment thread. Not the jerk. I think the bottom line is that nobody should ever be forced to be family with anyone, period. All these am I the jerk commenters seem to grasp that it's just fine when a step-sibling or a step-parent is forced onto someone. That framework applies here. All these am I the jerk commenters seem to grasp that it's not fine when a step-sibling or a step-parent is forced onto someone. That framework applies here. If you truly are kind to Allie, that's all you owe her. My goodness, you are allowed to take a family photo at your wedding. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Bruh. I threatened to call the police after my cat sitter dodged agreeing on a time for me to get him 3 times. Am I the jerk? I'm only in this city for 4.5 months due to military reasons, and I needed to find a sitter here as I live full-time about 11 hours away, and my tour at this specific location is over in a few days, so I'm leaving and presumably never coming back. Sitter has been watching him since June, and we message every couple of weeks about him, and I've seen him 3 times in person for short visits. So a few days ago, my tour is coming to an end, and I asked her once over Messenger for a good day and time for me to come get him for good, and she did not answer that, but answered me when I asked if I could see him this weekend for a minute. So today I asked her in person if Thursday at this time works, and her response was, "Well, I think I have to work that day." And that's literally all she said. So then I left for whatever reason, and I got a sick feeling, so I messaged her not long after. "Hey, so what day and time does work? I can even get him the night before if Thursday doesn't work." She saw it on Facebook Messenger but didn't reply, so I sent it again. She saw it but no reply. Finally, I sent, "Look, I'm not saying you're the kind of person to do this, but I've heard stories of pet sitters taking someone's pet, so I need to hear back by 5 p.m. today about when to come get my cat. I'd hate to have to show up with the police over something like this." That's all I said in my last message, and before that, I called her twice and got sent a voicemail that wasn't set up after 4 rings and then 1 ring, so she likely saw my calls earlier. So anyways, after I sent that last message, she responds immediately, says things are awkward now, and says for me to call her, and she starts crying. I say, "Look, you may be a great person, but it should not take me asking when to get my cat 3 times, and actually 5 if you want to be technical." Her husband ended up taking the phone after she started blaming me for thinking the worst, but to me, it's a clear line in the sand. I don't know you personally. You don't know me. You get 3 chances. Besides, I didn't even say I was gonna show up with the police. So part of me thinks she had ulterior motives just because her reaction was so outlandish, and she may have done that to tip the scale in her favor. But I'm asking here, am I the jerk? Edit 1. In the phone call, I said several times, "Look, you may be a great person and you probably are. Please don't take this personally, but you just never know in today's crazy world." And at that point, I was ready to admit, maybe I was wrong. Maybe she was. Who cares? Let's just make sure I can get my cat. Edit 2. For clarification, The police said I had to file a report because it could be looked into, so I did, but said that I had several days to arrange a time for all of us to meet up to get the cat, so it's not like we were all on our way to her house. No, you have to file a report, and I felt like I had to do it. Some law enforcement may be in here, but that's how it is at this department. Small city, limited resources. Essentially, me filing a report was about a formality. Nothing real happens until the cops call back and we all meet up. Edit 3. Really wish I would edit the title to say threatened to show up with the police, since that's what I said in the text verbatim. But for what it's worth, the police said I had to file something for it to even get on their radar, and that I had a few days to pursue it. Update. Long story, but after her husband took the phone from her, the conversation flowed good between he and I. He then texted me saying just to talk to him from here on out, which I did. We agreed on tonight for me to go get my cat, and this morning he texted me asking what time exactly. These things made me feel very confident about it. However, I do feel deep down she was trying to keep him, which absolutely blows my mind that you literally can't even trust a cat sitter anymore, even with a professional looking setup. Even they might take your cat, and as such, I'll be darned if I ever take him anywhere that isn't 1000% official and as businesslike as it can be, like an extremely well-known pet clinic or a vet with boarding services with tons of reviews. Now the dilemma I have is whether to post reviews about her. I'm tempted to. It's just that if I had concrete proof she tried to take him, then I would. But now she can say, "Oh, I was going to get back to you," or "Of course I was going to give him back," and her husband was extremely accommodating. Am I the jerk for letting my vegan nephew eat meat and dairy during his visit? My sister, Rachel, who's 42, and her husband, Frank, who's 43, decided to go on a couples retreat for their anniversary over the summer. Rachel is my only sibling, and her son, Bennett, 15 male, is my only nephew. Because we live on opposite sides of the country, I only get to see them in person once every couple of years. Since I, 36 male, had recently moved to a beach town, Rachel and Frank suggested Bennett could come for a visit. I was excited by the idea, and I told Rachel to send me an email with everything I needed to know. The email contained the name and contact numbers of the couple's retreat and flight information, as well as recipes for several vegan dishes. Rachel and Frank are very into veganism and New Age spirituality. Not my cup of tea, but no judgment. Though I usually eat a high-protein diet, I resigned myself to cooking vegan meals for the week that Bennett stayed with me. His flight landed late in the evening, after which we watched a movie and ate some popcorn before going to bed. The next day, I took Bennett to the grocery store to get some snacks and give me more ideas for things to make. He asked what I would normally cook for guests. I told him I enjoyed grilling and would usually make burgers, pork chops, steak, and seafood. Bennett said all of that sounded great and told me not to go to any trouble on his account. I was surprised and told him that I thought he was vegan. He said his parents were vegan and that he eats whatever they put in front of him. However, Bennett claimed he didn't care about any of that stuff and would be happy to eat what I eat. Rachel's email never said Bennett had to eat vegan food, so I loaded up the shopping cart with various meats to grill. Bennett also threw in a couple tubs of ice cream. I had a great time with Bennett and was sad to see him go. Rachel told me later that the visit was the highlight of his summer. Everything seemed well until a few days ago when I posted some pictures from Bennett's visit on my Facebook page, one of which showed Bennett tearing into a pile of steamed shrimp. Rachel called a few hours later and angrily accused me of trying to undermine their values. I told her she never said that Bennett had to keep a vegan diet and said that she needed to discuss this with him. She said I should have known better and asked me if I would serve pork to someone from a family whose religion didn't eat it. I told her that veganism is not a religion and she should have made her expectations clear. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk for giving him meat. You are the jerk for accidentally ratting him out on Facebook. I mean, you had to know that the photo wasn't going to go well. OP. Several posters have said this, and I feel the need to push back a bit. Of course, I didn't intend to cause Bennett any grief with his parents, but nor did he give me any reason to think that his parents might disapprove. My sister and her husband do free-range parenting style and have always touted how they're raising their son to be an autonomous free thinker. Bennett was completely nonchalant about eating meat and dairy during his visit with me. Never once did he even suggest that we should keep his eating habits a secret. If he had, that would have tipped me off to the fact that his parents didn't approve and we would have stuck to the vegan diet. I just figured his relationship with meat was like my relationship with Chinese food growing up. My parents hate Chinese food, so we never ordered it. Who hates Chinese food? I didn't know that was possible. So we never ordered Chinese takeout or went to any Chinese restaurants. However, my parents wouldn't have cared if I bought Chinese food for myself or went to a Chinese restaurant with friends. Though Rachel and her husband are vegans, I didn't think they were mandating that lifestyle for Bennett. Hence why I didn't think we needed to hide what Bennett ate while he was with me. Not the jerk. I'm vegetarian, and we specifically ask friends and family to not serve meat, especially pork, to the kids. However, at a certain age, around preteen, I assumed the kids were capable of making their own choices, which they are. You offered alternatives that were in accordance with his parents' wishes, but your nephew is certainly old enough to decide what he wants to eat. If his parents have an issue with that, that's on them. How do I, 28 female, move forward from a disappointing proposal from my fiancé, male 27? My fiancé and I have been together for 8 years. As a whole, we have a great stable relationship, but I can't move past my constant disappointment from his proposal. I didn't receive a "this is why I love you" speech or a grand gesture of asking me to marry him. He never even got down on one knee. Not that it's the end of the world, but it's just painting the picture. It was the last day of our camping trip that I really thought he was going to propose during. That evening, he only wanted to go fishing, so I sat in my kayak probably 7 feet away and cried to myself for over an hour that it wasn't going to happen since he didn't propose at any beautiful hiking views point or sunsets throughout the week, and we were leaving in the morning. When we brought the kayaks in after fishing until dark, he went to the truck, came back, and handed me a ring box saying, "This should make you happy." That's it. That's all. I booked the same campsite on the same lake on the same day this year and hinted over and over again that he could make it up to me. He did not even acknowledge the anniversary of our engagement. We are to get married in August, but I can't move forward from this. I cry when friends get beautiful engagements. I cry watching romantic comedies. I feel nothing but disappointment that I will never experience the gesture of love I dreamed about my whole life. Anytime we have a disagreement or I feel unwanted by him, I'm just reminded of the disappointment I feel in regards to the proposal. I don't even enjoy looking at my beautiful ring because it doesn't bring me a happy memory. This feeling is clouding how I feel about him, even though he's never treated me poorly and he's my best friend. I don't want to ruin my relationship over this, but I don't know how to move on. He said he can't change how things happened, which is true, but it's been over a year and I can't seem to move past my disappointment. Edit. Thank you everyone for the comments, no matter how harsh or hard to read they are. I've read all of them. At this time, for my own mental health, I'm going to have to take a step back and think about what I really want for my future. Edit 2. I would like to add, since hundreds of comments are stating my expectations are too high, that I never wanted a grand gesture or a Hollywood proposal, but rather words of affirmation and proof that I mean enough to him that marriage is obviously what he wanted. Additionally, we have spoken at length about my disappointment from a lack of romance here and in other aspects of our relationship. Finally, I did not destroy our camping trip or whine the entire time as many suggested. I never brought anything up for the 8 days we were gone on the trip that I planned. This wasn't a trip he poured a ton of time or money into as people are suggesting, but rather we are avid campers. I cried the last night as he encouraged me to take a job which requires being away from him that morning, and after finding a ring prior to the trip but not receiving it before our trip was over, I was devastated. Not my proudest moment, but I cried to myself, not to him, and nor was I obviously upset for the hours spent fishing, an activity that I hate, but rather shed some tears while tossing a line on my own for a while. I suggested proposing to him a few times over the years, and he hated the idea. I wasn't going to do something he wouldn't be happy with just to speed things along for myself. When I read your title, I rolled my eyes, but "this should make you happy"? That's the most crappy proposal I've ever heard of. It implies that he's doing you a favor. I wouldn't be able to get past that either. You need to talk to him and get to the bottom of it. Does he not want to marry you? "This should make you happy" is not a proposal at all. You would be well within your rights to give it back until he actually asks you to marry him. Honestly, he doesn't really sound like he likes you that much. Sad to say, your resent towards him will most likely continue to grow. Don't get married until this is resolved. Marriage seems like a bad choice. Why don't you try couples counseling? You need to go to couples counseling before you get married. Forget the BS these people in the thread are telling you about your expectations being too high or that you have a princess mentality. A marriage proposal should be exciting and joyous. So you pouted and cried in the kayak, so the moment was actually spoiled by that to start. He may have had other plans, but that may have pushed him to just hand you the ring. I hate to break this to you, but life isn't a romantic comedy, and if that's what you want, then you picked the wrong guy, clearly. Maybe you should reconsider your marriage if a romantic comedy is what you want. You gotta stop focusing on the superficial. Did it kind of suck? Yeah. but I've had a friend who proposed to his girlfriend over pizza. They're now married for 25 years. The superficial Hollywood romantic comedy is just that, a fantasy. Don't focus on the less important matter rather than how he treats you. Hollywood has fed fantasies that poison people's minds. I'm really sorry you're upset that your boyfriend isn't the Prince Charming you want him to be, but there are so much worse things you could be upset from in life. Boo-hoo, you didn't get the engagement you wanted. You know the man you're with, and you should have known his personality. My advice to you is to stop being a spoiled brat. I'd be really happy if my boyfriend got down on one knee in the middle of a parking lot and proposed. You should be happy to be marrying someone you love and that loves you enough to want to spend the rest of their life with you. It doesn't matter how crappy they propose to you. I feel sorry for your boyfriend. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. It sounds to me like the boyfriend had kind of had enough of hearing about this stuff and he said, look, take this, just be happy, just stop messing with me. Stop messing with me. My girlfriend is demanding to be removed from our apartment lease. My girlfriend and I lived together for 5 months and it's been going good. But her grandma recently had a fall and requires care and someone to live with her because she was on the ground for hours before girlfriend's mom found her. Our apartment is one of the cheapest and yet I can't afford it alone. My girlfriend wants me to remove her from the lease while she lives with her grandma. But I don't want to live with a roommate anymore, and I told her she should keep paying for the apartment that we signed for a year since living with her grandma is free. But she's angry that I won't remove her from the lease and find a roommate, calling me childish for not just finding someone else to live with in the meantime and letting her live with her grandma, which is an hour away. But how is it fair she can go live with her grandma rent-free while I'm stuck with a stranger I don't even know when she can continue to pay her half and just live with her grandma? I've told the landlord I'm not taking her off the lease, and she's threatened to break up with me because of it. You're the jerk. Major, and may the karma you put out be reflected back to you. She's literally going to help her grandma. She's going to be working to keep her safe, and you call that rent-free? Seriously? I've been this caregiver, and I can say it is so much work. I loved my grandma, and I don't regret helping her through the last few months of her life, but just because I didn't pay money to stay there doesn't mean that there wasn't a cost. OP is totally the jerk. Absolutely. OP, the price for your girlfriend is a lot of mental and emotional load. She needs you to be there to support her because what she's doing will be tough. She does not need you being petty or trying to manipulate her into what you want. That's harsh. I just want to point out that while her efforts to help grandma are selfless and admirable, she did sign a legal agreement, presumably. Now she's putting it on OP to fill a rent gap that he wasn't expecting. Regardless of any unexpected and tragic circumstances, it's kind of crappy to just bail on someone like that and leave them to figure it out, especially your significant other. Ouch. I'm also feeling for this dude a bit, because apparently girlfriend isn't worried about coming back to him. Like, I can't imagine, after having moved in with my wife way back when, that at any point she would have been okay separating our living arrangement entirely like this. It doesn't sound like OP has a relationship anymore either way, so at this point, he has no reason not to pursue the soon-to-be ex-girlfriend for the rent that she agreed to pay. Sorry, but at this stage, he's not the priority. Her grandmother should and does come first. But the rental agreement she signed is the priority, not him. Even if she leaves him, she will still be on the hook for her half of the rent, even if she's not there. You're the jerk. This relationship sounds doomed. It would be reasonable to expect her to cover her half of the rent until you found a roommate. But pay half for the rest of the year for a place that she doesn't live in? Just because you don't like roommates? All because her grandmother had an emergency and needs care? Yikes. Not the jerk. I remember a similar story where the roles were flipped. The boyfriend was the one who wanted to move out and asked to be taken off the lease because his father had a heart attack and needed to be cared for. His girlfriend fought him on it because she needed him to pay rent until their lease was up, and she refused to get a roommate. Every comment on that story was talking about how improper planning on his part didn't necessitate an emergency on hers. Even lawyers were commenting, telling her the steps she could take to get the money that he would owe on the rent. The hypocrisy on this site never ceases to amaze me. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for not wanting to take his girlfriend off the lease or not? Please let us know. All I know is I think the relationship definitely sounds like it's done for. I lied to the people I was babysitting for to get them to come home. I'm 15 years old and I babysit to make money. I took a first aid course and a babysitting course. Last weekend, one of my little sister's classmates' parents had a wedding to go to, and they asked if I would go babysit. I asked how late they would need me and if I should pack an overnight bag if they were going to be staying out all night. They said that they would be home by midnight, so I checked with my dad if that was okay because he's my ride. He doesn't want me alone in the car with people that he doesn't know. So my dad was there to pick me up at 11:50. The kids were all asleep and I was watching TV. I had texted them at 11 to double check that they would be there on time. The mom texted me back, yes. 12:30, they still aren't there. I texted again, no answer. I called my dad and he's upset. Not at me. 1 o'clock, I call them, no answer. My dad went and got a coffee at home and came back. He is all calm. Not good. He's ready to blow. I texted them every 15 minutes and no response. 2:20, I have an idea. I texted them that someone tried to break in their garage, but the alarm scared them away. They were home drunk in an Uber in 15 minutes. My dad made them pay me for my extra time before we left. He told me that I'm not allowed to babysit for them again unless I charge them for an overnight stay. Yesterday at school, I saw the mom when I was picking up my sister after school. She gave me crap for scaring her and her husband, that they had checked their security cameras and no one even tried to break in. I said, sorry, the alarm went off, so I called you. She called me a liar, which is fair, but I don't feel bad about what I did. They lied to me first. My mom says I should have just sucked it up, but my dad says that they broke our deal. I do feel kind of bad for tricking them into coming home from their party, but they could have told me that it was an overnight, or they could have texted me that they were going to be late. My dad has brought me an overnight bag before when that has happened. Edit. My mom wanted me to call the police to see if they had been in an accident, but I thought that if they were still at the wedding, that would have caused a scene. Not the jerk. The fact that the parents said yes, they would be home at 12, and then couldn't or wouldn't respond for 2 hours is BS. Where she gets off being upset with you is crazy. Please tell me they apologized when they finally got home. OP. They did not. Next time, just text them. If you're not home in the next 15 minutes, since our agreed upon time was X, I will be calling the proper authorities for what you're doing. They were neglectful parents. They are in the wrong. Their poor planning is not your problem. Lady complains about me to her boyfriend over the phone while I'm literally standing right there. I'm so upset right now. So our hotel doesn't have any vending machines. Instead, we have a marketplace that's basically a little room with drinks, snacks, and some basic medications available for guests to buy. I can either add the charges to the guest's room, or if they wanted to pay at the counter, I'd log the charges in a monthly marketplace folio that contains all market transactions from people paying at the counter. So by the end of the month, there are literally thousands of charges and transactions on that one folio. It's November, but the manager has us using the October folio until the end of this week. If someone pays with a credit card, I get a pop-up asking if I want to print a receipt of the sale. If someone pays with cash, I obviously don't get the pop-up, and trying to print a receipt will print every last transaction on the folio. Cool, we've got the background info taken care of here, now on to the story. This lady comes down and browses the marketplace for a couple minutes. She brings 2 cans of ginger ale to the desk and says she wants to pay in cash. Okay, no problem. I log the transaction and accept the payment. Here's our little dialogue. Her. I don't need my change, just a receipt. Me. I'm sorry, but I can't print you a receipt when you're paying with cash. Her. Well, someone did it just the other day, so yes, you can. Me, confused, because that definitely didn't happen unless they gave her 50 pages of transaction history. Who was here? Her. I don't know, some guy. You know what? Whatever. I don't need a receipt. Me, flustered, and wondering if I can do anything else to help her. Oh, are you sure? And she was already walking away when I saw her rolling her eyes. Apparently, she was on the phone with her boyfriend via Bluetooth, earpods, or something similar. So she stopped in front of the elevator, and as she was waiting for it to come down to the first floor, this is the conversation she had with her boyfriend, in a normal volume, not even caring that I could easily hear her side of the conversation 5 feet away from me, not even attempting to hide it. Her. Ugh, this girl at the desk just told me she couldn't print a darn receipt. I told her that someone just did it the other day, and she asked who it was. Jerk, it doesn't matter who it was, just give me a receipt. And then I told her to forget it, and she said, oh, are you sure? As if I didn't just stand there telling her that I only wanted my receipt. I can't believe this dumb, stupid jerk. And then she got on the elevator, still talking. Those doors closed, and I just said, "Forget you," to get it out of my system. She really acted like a total stuck-up jerk, over $2.12 in cash. Why do you need a receipt for that in the first place? And secondly, if she's going to complain about me, she could at least have the decency to do it somewhere other than 5 feet away from me. I don't know if she was looking for a reason to get upset, or if that's just her normal, sparkling personality. Either way, it was just infuriating. We should all get a few consequence-free forget yous to use per year on the worst guests. All customer service and hospitality workers should. Edit. Y'all, I'm not here to debate on whether or not there's a way to print the receipt, because I double-checked with a coworker who has been there for years when she came in for her shift. I'm a bit surprised by all the people acting like I was the one being the jerk here. Her crappy behavior was not necessary, regardless of all the things I'm hearing about legality and not knowing the system. She was rude, but you definitely need to learn your system a bit better. There's always a way to print a receipt, regardless of the PMS. You'll eventually learn it all, though. I apologize in advance for that. In the US, it's legally required to be able to provide a hard copy receipt. How the customer paid is irrelevant. Someone just doesn't want to use paper. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you, the hotel, should be able to give a receipt for her purchase, however it's made. She shouldn't have been rude about it, but it is extremely ridiculous that you're unable to issue a receipt for her purchase. In your shoes, I'd at least warn people before making cash purchases in the future that you can't do a receipt. A lot of folks are traveling for business or have to keep track of spending for other reasons. I'd want a receipt because I don't know you and so I don't trust you. So in case you pocket the change and then charge the room anyway, I want some proof that I already paid previously. There was no reason for the customer to be such a jerk, but I probably would have side-eyed you a little for that "are you sure" comment. Like, you're the one who just said you can't do it. Makes it kind of irrelevant whether I'm sure I don't need one or not. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.